Hey, and welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to create the widget for the upgrade system. With that, let's get started. So before we get started with the widget creation, I forgot to add the transmission into the blueprint structures for the transmission that we're going to create later on in the series. So let's do that real quick. So we're going to do the same as we did with the other one. I'm going to right click, blueprint, structure. This is going to be bps underscore transmission, and then we're going to open it, and then the same here, we're going to have 3 stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And I'm going to save that, close it, head over to the PDA upgrade cost, because we also need to add the cost here. So the boost, just going to control D that one, and then we name this from boost to transmission. Control D, 2, and then Control D again, and 3, and then compile and save, close that. And then in the vehicle blueprint structure, the main blueprint structure, we need to go and add the transmission to it. So the add variable, and then the one we're going to add here is the BPS transmission of type BPS transmission. And then we need to add the shift times, so add a new variable. Then we're going to add a shift time. This is going to be of type float. Then another variable, and then this is going to be the shift time multiplier, also of type float. I'm going to save, close this, and then head into the PDA upgrade cost. So for the transmission, I'm thinking of going with, let's go with 3, 6, and 9 as well. Save, close this, and then the last thing we need to do is head over to the maps main menu, open up this one, and then we just need to reset all the save files again. So compile all of these once more, and then the blueprint structure, and then open up the main menu level, save everything, create the level, quit, into the actor, and then just disconnect, compile, save, close, go through the steps again, and then I'll see y'all after I've gone through the steps. So now we're back in the workshop level with the workshop level widget open. I'm gonna go widgets, workshop, then we have the workshop widget over here. We also have the performance widget, which we also need to work on. So open up this one, dock it to the top. This one we don't really need it except for the performance, because we're going to be working on this. So I'm going to head over to the graph, and then with the performance selected, do we have it set up already? Oh, we do. Okay, we already have this set up, so it's fine. We just need to do the performance, and then in here by the widgets for the workshop, we're going to create a folder for each of the components, just because there are going to be 2 widgets for every component: the upgrade stage widget itself, and then the purchase pop-up widget that accompanies it. So let's just do that. And then also what we're going to do is we're only going to create 1 widget, and then in the next video we are going to add the code to it, and then we're going to duplicate it and then make the necessary changes to it, because all the widgets and the code is going to be exactly the same. The only difference is it's going to be which component it's going to target, but the code is going to be exactly the same. So it's going to change from either targeting the pistons or the tires or the transmission or the boost, something like that. But for now we're just going to create the widget. So we're going to create a folder, and then we're going to start with the pistons, just because it is the one I thought about. So in the pistons, going to right click, go down to user interface, widget blueprint, user widget, and then we're going to name this WBP underscore pistons, and then we're going to control D that, and then we're going to rename this to pistons pop-up, and then we're going to open up both of these, and then we're going to do the performance one first. So we're just going to go over to the content, and then in the blueprints, because it's just blueprint structures, I just want to keep track of which components we need to add to the performance. So in here, we're going to add a canvas panel, and then in the canvas panel, we're going to add an overlay. Select the overlay, anchors, Control Shift the entire screen. And then what we're going to add next is a vertical box. And then the vertical box, we are going to situate this at the bottom, at the center bottom, center. And then what we're going to do next is add a size box. And then within the size box, we're going to add another vertical. And then within the vertical, we're going to add a button. And then we're also going to add a text. So the text that we have in the vertical for the button is going to be the installation text. So when you click and purchase the particular stage for this component, it's going to notify you that this stage is the one that's currently installed. And then when you install, say for example, you install stage 1, it's going to say stage 1, and then underneath it's going to say installed. And then if you purchase a stage 2 component, then it's going to say under stage 2 installed, and then under stage 1 it's going to be blank. And then also what we're going to do is we're going to create 4 of these. So it's going to be factory, which is going to be the default. So the multiply will be set to 1, which means it makes no change at all to the car's performance. And then from stages 1 to 3, we will then have a different value for those ones. Okay, so before we move on, one thing I forgot to do is just to add a horizontal box. So select the size box, and then we're gonna wrap this with a horizontal box, just so we can stack them next to each other. And then the next thing we're gonna do is take the size box, and then Control D. So now we have all the buttons we need. And then we're going to add one last button. This is going to be the back button, and this is going to be added to the vertical box. And then on that button, we're going to add a text. And then actually, let's set this vertical to fill the entire screen. And then take the horizontal and then set this to the center. Take the button, align this to the left. And then take the vertical again. Add to a padding at the bottom, let's say 50. I think that should be fine. Take the button, add a padding on the left of maybe, let's say 100, just to kind of get it off from there. And then all of these size boxes, select each of them, and then give each one of them a padding of, let's say 10 all around, just to kind of add some space in between them so they don't look so crowded together. And now we're just going to change the appearance a bit. So select the size box. I'm going to do a width and height override. We're going to make it a 162 by 182. And then we're going to select the button, set this to full, and then do the same for the other size boxes. Width and height, a 162 by 182. Select the button, set it to fill, and then also change the text block. Middle alignment, change the size to 20, and then we're going to do this for all of them. Select the button, fill, size box, width and height, 162 by 182. Select the text, center, horizontal, size 20, and then for the buttons you can either add an image or you can add a text. I'm going to add text. For the button, just add a text, and then this one is going to be factory, and then the other button, this one is going to be stage 1, then the next button, this one is going to be stage 2, and then the last one is going to be stage 3. And then just rename all the buttons. I'll start with the back button. Name this back, make sure it is variable, and then the text, select the text, it is variable, and then I'm going to rename this to factory text. The other one as well is variable. Rename this to stage 1 text. Then the next one is stage 2 text. And then the last one is stage 3 text. The buttons, also name them accordingly. Just gonna call this stage 3 is variable. Next button, stage 2 is variable. Next button, stage 1 is variable. Then the last one, factory, is variable. You can also call it stock if you want to, that also works. So now that we have everything done, we're going to empty out the text blocks. So just empty out the text blocks that are going to be the install text. I'm gonna compile, save, wait. I think I did this on the wrong widget. I should have done it on the Pistons instead. I did it on the performance. So I'm just gonna go and rename this real quick. Content, widgets, workshop, and then okay, I'm gonna need to close all of this real quick. Just close all of this, and then I'm gonna take the Pistons, take this one, then I'm gonna need to move it over to the workshop instead. Move it to the workshop, take the performance, which is dead, move that to the Pistons, and then rename this one to performance, and then open up the Pistons, and then rename this one to Pistons instead. Sorry about that, I didn't really notice, I wasn't paying attention. So now we're going to reopen all of this, open up the Pistons again, dock this to the top, the Pistons pop up, and then the performance, and then we're going to go into the workshop, check the performance widget, and then see it has been changed to Pistons because we renamed the widget, but we need to have this be as the performance widget. Compile, save, then we can close this, and then now the actual performance widget, we're going to add a canvas panel. We need to add an overlay. Select the overlay, anchors, Control Shift, the entire screen, and then now we can add the vertical box. And then the vertical box, we're going to set it to the bottom and fully cover the horizontal alignment. Add some padding at the bottom of 50. I'm gonna make them all match and look exactly the same. So yes, it is 50. And then we'll do the same thing we did with the Pistons. I'm gonna add a size box. Take the size box and then wrap this with a horizontal box. And then on the size box, we're going to add a button and then also a text. You can also add an image if you want to. And then this text, we're going to call this, can start with crankshaft. Just gonna call this crank. Take the size box, width and height override. I'm gonna make this a 162, so it's gonna be a square. And then rename the button is variable. Change the button to crankshaft. And then we're gonna take the size box and then Control D. Select the button. Rename this one to Pistons. Change the text on it to Pistons. Select the size box, Control D again, and then the next one we are going to name this, we'll make this the tires. Select the button, rename this to, actually let's go with the brakes first. So brakes, change the text, brakes, let's see, content, blueprints, structures. So we have, okay, before we do the brakes, we should have added the boost first, and then the tires, and then finally the transmission. So back into the performance, and then just select the second size box, Control D, so we can fit one in between the two of them. Select the button, and then this one is going to be the boost. Rename the text, rename this to boost. Select the last size box, Control D. Select the button. This is going to be the tires, or tires, depending on how you want to spell it. I'm gonna stick to the TYRES. and then just want to change the text as well. And then the last one, size box, Control D, and then this one is the transmission, and then on here we're just gonna call it the trans, just for short, because there's not a lot of space. And then we're going to select the horizontal box, set it to the middle alignment, select all the size boxes, add a padding of 10 all around, and then we're going to add the back button. So we're going to add a button to the vertical, and then this one yet again, horizontal alignment to the left, add a text block, and then we're going to add a padding of 100 to the left, select the text, rename this to back, and then select the button is variable, and then change this to back. That should be fine. Just double check all the buttons, make sure they are all is variable. So now that is that. We're gonna compile, save, and do the pop-up. The pop-up, we're also going to add a canvas panel, and then to the canvas panel we're going to add an overlay. Select the overlay, anchors, shift control the entire screen, and then we're going to add a vertical box to the overlay. Select the vertical box. This one we're going to put it dead center. Then we're going to select the text, and then the text is going to read as, it's going to say purchase for, ellipses, question mark, and then I'm going to add another text box. So just select that one, Control D, and then this one we are going to leave it blank, but we are going to make it is variable, and we're going to call this cost text. So this is where the cost of the part is going to be displayed. Then we're going to add a button, set a button to the vertical box, and then add a text on top of the button. Select the button is variable, rename this to yes. Select the text, change the content to yes. Select the button, Control D, and then just rename this to no. Change the content to no as well. If you do want to make this look bigger, you can select the vertical box, set it to full completely horizontally, select the two text, align them to the middle, and then select the vertical box again, and then you can add padding on the side. So let's see, say maybe 300 by 300. I think that should be fine. Select the buttons, and then we're gonna add a padding of 10. Add some spacing, and then that will be it for the purchase. That brings us to the end of this video, and until the next one.